So we just recognized a pretty big milestone in our family. It's been 7 years since my father's death. Don't worry, I'm okay. I don't consider death a tragedy, just one more human experience that we will all have eventually. I do wish it could have happened a little later for my dad, though. He died at age 70 of prostate cancer, which is pretty survivable if caught in time, but he didn't. There were, of course, some symptoms, but unless we understand the source of symptoms, there's no way we can treat the problem. In his case, because it took so long to identify the illness, it was too late to stop it. Suffering ensued, and that is something I wish he could have been spared. Naming the problem is essential for maintaining optimal health. Friends, please get your screenings. But this is also true for us collectively as a society, and I know that you have noticed that collectively, we've got some symptoms. Violence, hate crimes, substance abuse, homelessness, racism, political division, war. That is just the short list. Do you ever lament the state of the world we live in? You're not alone. And we are certainly not the first people to look around, sigh deeply, and cry out in grief. Listen to the lament of the prophet Jeremiah, writing about 6 centuries before Christ, bemoaning the sad state of his people who had lost everything and become exiled from their home and their land. It was heart-wrenching, and the prophet responded with these words: "No healing, only grief. My heart is broken. Listen to the weeping of my people all across the land. Isn't the Lord in Zion? Is her king no longer there?" Here the prophet imagines God's response. "Why then do they anger me with their images, with pointless foreign gods?" The prophet continues to recall the people's lament. "The harvest is past, the summer has ended, yet we aren't saved." What does a prophet just say to that? No answer comes, just some raw feelings. "Because my people are crushed, I am crushed. Darkness and despair overwhelm me. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then have my people not been restored to health? If only my head were a spring of water and my eyes a fountain of tears, I would weep day and night for the wounds of my people." Oh, Jeremiah. We would call him an empath in today's language, feeling so deeply the pain of others. It breaks his heart, not only to see his people suffering, but to have no answer for them, only questions. Is there no balm? Is there no physician? Why then have my people not been restored to health? Why? I think we struggle with the same questions. Like Jeremiah, we also see overwhelming darkness and despair, and we wonder, is there no balm? Is there no healing? Why then are our people not restored to health? There must be healing balms. Actually, there are plenty of them. But if you've ever opened a well-stocked medicine cabinet, like maybe the one in a hospice patient's home, you understand there are plenty of balms, but not all of them do the same thing. To find the right kind of healing, you have to understand what needs the medicine. My dad had medicine for pain, nausea, anxiety, sleep, for every possible complaint of a dying person. We who cared for him, we needed to know exactly what to use for which circumstance. Not all balms do the same thing. So why are our people not restored to health? Maybe we've not successfully diagnosed the illness, because it turns out that violence, homelessness, addiction, crime, racism, all of it, these are not the core problems, but they are the symptoms of the core problems. Father Gregory Boyle, writing in his book, Cherished Belonging, suggests a different way of understanding the ills of the world. He writes that the cruelty of the world points beyond itself to things that indeed need our attention. It points to mental anguish, wounds, damage, and trauma that need our healing. He writes, a bad diagnosis can't ever lead us to a good treatment plan. For a long time, we have misdiagnosed the problem. Now, theologically, some people have tried to blame everything on sin or evil. Two sides of the same coin, but maybe not a useful currency in the effort to find a solution. In fact, it might be lazy for us to blame everything on sin and evil, because doing so gives us the false impression that there's not much we can do. But what if we change the diagnosis to brokenness? Father Gregory writes, we are all broken, and knowing that helps us recognize it everywhere, and further, it blossoms into compassionate love. Compassionate love, now that's a good starting point, a balm of sorts. Compassionate love allows us to look into the eyes of others and see the goodness, even if the people behind those eyes do not see it in themselves. And that is the brokenness, the place where the balm needs to be applied. Maybe no one ever told them just how good they were. Maybe they searched for belonging and never found it until maybe some online group let them in and fed them all sorts of loathsome propaganda. It happens. Not because people are sinful or evil, but because people are broken and hurting. And you maybe know the saying, hurt people, hurt people. The Honorable, exceedingly wise Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. famously said, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. I love these words, and I never thought of modifying them, but Father Gregory adds this thought. What if hate is not something you drive out, but something you heal? I'm still pondering that. I'm not sure that the verbal distinction between driving out and healing is a critical point, but I do see value in shaping the conversation about hate to include healing. For isn't that the issue? Collectively, we are not well, and our unwellness is at the heart of everything we deem hateful. Consider the news cycle of the past few weeks: school shootings, public assassination, increased Russian aggression, continued violence in Gaza, relaxed reporting standards for corporate polluters, and the puzzling omission of tobacco prevention in the plan for childhood wellness, and so much more. Why? You might answer things like stupidity, evil, corruption, and you might have a point, but at the heart of it all, I think it's also true to say, we are not well. It harkens back to the Jeremiah question. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then have my people not been restored to health? Maybe again because we have not figured out the source of the illness. Somehow we have forgotten how to live together compatibly, or maybe we never really knew how. Historical evidence of wars indicate that maybe humankind has been quite ill for some time now. And yet I do believe there is a balm. I think it starts with compassion, cultivating empathy for others who experience life differently, and that starts with curiosity. Just listening to someone's story can offer insight leading to grace. Instead of judging someone as hateful, we can wonder, what has happened in your life that causes you to think or act this way? What stories were you told about yourself or others? Do you even have access to the information you might need to think differently? Or is your pain just so great that you can't get to higher ground? And this is true for racists, for homophobes, for bigots of all kinds. It's true for school shooters and political terrorists and dictators and pedophiles and people who type mean social media posts in all capital letters. Beneath every hateful behavior is someone who is simply not well. Father Gregory writes from the vantage point of empathy learned from 40 years working with seasoned gang members. Health and illness are surely on a continuum, a spectrum of severity, and none of it has to do with morality. If we believe that our home is each other in love, then healthy people can, for example, forgive. People who aren't well can't. The moral overlay doesn't add anything. If we create therapeutic communities and we all participate in whole making, then we can help each other move forward and not get over their pain, but put one foot in front of the next. You don't move on from trauma, but you learn to move with it. Being cherished helps you integrate your traumatic memories so they can become less disassociating. We are invited to help each other do this. If we could heal those things that compromise agency, people would settle into health. I am intrigued. I think he is onto something. I'm not a doctor, and neither is Father Gregory. Both of us were trained in a different kind of healing, but all of this is consistent with the advice of a real doctor whose work I respect greatly. Dr. Vivek Murthy, former U.S. Surgeon General, diagnosed one of the biggest illnesses of our time as loneliness. He counseled our nation that if we want to be well, if we want our children to be well, we need to connect with other human beings. Connection is the medicine we need. Yes, there is a balm. Yes, there is a physician. We are the physicians who can heal each other, and our connection is the balm. I do not want to diminish the importance of actual medicine and therapy, and also the social structures that need to be in place to give people access to this care. And while we're talking about it, affordable housing, meaningful work, reliable public transit to get there, free childcare, all of the things. All of this is essential to a society in which wellness is possible. We have our ways to ask for these things, our voice and our vote that we get to use if we choose. But let us not forget the essential work of healing, our work of building paths that connect us to one another. Maybe you have fallen out of connection. If so, then to you I say, friend, there is a place for you. Come home. Maybe you are feeling well connected, and to you I would say, please look out for those who are not and invite them to connect. It's who we are, we who follow Jesus, who welcomed everyone he met to join him at the table, even if their names had never once been on a guest list. And it's who we were made to be by the God who called everything in creation good. That is, until God noticed the human being look a little lonely, and that God realized was not good. We were made good, and we were made for connection. This is how we find wellness, wholeness, and healing. There is indeed a balm in Gilead, and it is in our hands as we reach out to one another in love. May this be true for you in your life.